last installment in Brother Reggie's paper.
Don't. So, but to give you an example of what ethnicity is, it's just really like where you were born and your like microculture. So technically, Jabari and I are different ethnicities. Do you
Hmm.
see how ridiculous that is? We both
Yeah,
black folks. We both black.
yeah.
Okay. So ethnicity is just like your language, the region, what you do culturally, the food, how you cook it, whatever. What I have found, and then I'm gonna get a mic back to you, when you talk to Pan African Black people of the diaspora, especially those of us displaced through enslavement, we say and do a lot of things that are similar. We have a lot of similar expressions. I spoke with an elder Afro Latina Cuban woman years ago at Bikram Yoga, and they have an equivalent Black Don't Crack expression amongst Black Cubans.
Hmm.
And she was straight from Cuba. So that's what ethnicity is. Ethnicity is not a different race like European, Asian, African. It's just within a race. Y'all are from different places and y'all do things a little different, but that's what it is. In case
Oh,
you don't
yeah.
know.
I think that we should recognize that the funny part of this, the part that I think that we have to also acknowledge, is that much of the perspective of the ancient world really revolved primarily around ethnicity.
Okay.
So that's why some of these issues become a little bit difficult when we come to the modern world. But there's something else disingenuous that happens, Aboot, that I think we need to also mention.
Okay.
Now, it was really people of European descent that created the concept of race, right? They created the concept of race. People understood national difference and cultural difference, but the idea that there were black people, for example, that there were white people in opposition, is something that primarily Europeans created in order to exploit the world.
Right.
So they were very clear on who was black and very clear on who was white because they wanted to say that those people who were black were those people who were primitive, those people who were not human. Fast forward to our current period when we're able to actually prove that some of the world's most influential people were people who were black. Now they no longer want us to talk about blackness. Now they want to say, oh, Kemet was a multi ethnic society. And in fact, the origins of that argument that puts all of the things that they created in our social discussion on its head started when what they started to say about ancient Kemet is, well, understand that there were white people of varying physical type. And they were trying their best to say that even people with dark skin and tightly curled hair could be European, could be white. So I want you to understand that this line is one that was created by Europeans and they have erased its boundaries when it suits them. But today,
Period.
what we're going to do is we want to be clear about where those people who gave the world its greatest civilization came from. We should at least say that they are Africans. So let's begin with another image of this person. And I show this image very often. Here is the fragmentary statue of Namur. And I want us to understand that when you look at Namur, what you are seeing is a person that comes from further into the interior of Africa, from further in the interior of Africa, to put this great civilization that we know as Kemet in order on the coast of Africa. And I constantly show this image about because I want to say to you that it is so amazing to me that so few people have seen it. You might say, well, Jabari, why have so few people seen it? I have to say to you that I believe the reason why we have not seen this image is because it displays an African.
Period. Period.
because his nose
Look
is
at his nose.
not just wide, but it's a wide nose by African standards. You hear what I'm saying? This is a wide nose by African standards.
I mean, he looks like Mike Tyson.
I mean, Mike Tyson's nose is not even that wide.
I mean, it's not, but the brother looked like Mike Tyson.
Yes, well, similar. Yes, you could say that this is Mike, right? I mean, I just want to say to you that when you look at these individuals, it should be clear who we're referring to. Now, keep in mind, this is a piece of stone. There's no color on this.
Right.
But even looking at his features, we know who we're seeing. And I'm going to say to you, Abu, that at any given hour of the day, with the 18 cajillion cable channels that we now have, you're going to find documentaries on Kemet. I'm going to use this word advisedly, on Egypt, and they will be on at any given hour of the day. Any given hour of the day. They're extremely popular. And virtually all of them will begin to talk about the person that put together Kemet. They may even mention his name, but you know what they never show you? They never show you his face. They never show you his face. How could we not say that this is something that we should consider intentional? How could we say that in good conscience? If you were watching a documentary on the beginnings of the United States and they didn't show you a painting of George Washington, you might find that a little puzzling. But this is routinely what they do when we talk about ancient Kemet. So I want us to, once again, be aware of the image of this man, understand who he is, understand who we're talking about when we talk about those individuals who put ancient Kemet together, so that we're able to inoculate ourselves against the European propaganda that to represent him as someone else. That is what we often see. Now, it shouldn't be surprising. It should not be surprising that when we're talking about Namr, we're talking about someone that is coming from further in the why are you both Greeks though? Greeks were the moral enemy who conquered our ancestors. Black Frat and Soros are Greeks. I haven't answered all the things I see on the screen, but I want to be clear. I'm not a Greek. I am a member of a Black Greek letter organization, right? But I've never called myself a Greek. I'm an African. And I want you to understand, I'm going to take a quick departure and answer this question, Abu. I want to just simply say to you so clearly that when you are a student in colleges in the United States, the fraternity and sorority groupings are not unimportant. And as a Black Cornellian, you should also understand that some of what happened around the creation of those organizations are some of the ways that Black folks got together to support themselves. Do I think that they should have Greek letters? I'm going to say to you very clearly, I do not think they should. Initially, the founders of Alpha Phi Alpha wanted to use what they called Ethiopic letters. But in the period that it was founded, they had no access to the language. So they used what they had access to. I truly believe that it's past time for us to now, if we have access to those letters, to change the letters. And so that's the situation that I think we should be in. But sure, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
And I'm going to say to you that there's nothing Greek about Alpha Phi Alpha other than the letters. Everything else is African. And you'd have to be a member to know that. And so that's the situation that we're in. And so you can have your disagreements on it. That's fine. That's fine. But I'm going to say to you as a member of the organization that the organization I belong to has always been connected to Africa. We're talking about folks like W.E.B. Du Bois. We're talking about folks like Martin Luther King. We're talking about modern individuals like Tony Browder, like Jabari Osaze, like Asar Imhotep, like Dr. Charles Finch. The list of people who are connected to Africa and have their eyes set on Africa goes on and on and on. So that's what I'm going to say to you.
I have one quick question for DL. In which sorority do I belong? Go ahead and drop that in the chat.
Yeah, I don't know why I said why we're both Greeks, because I think
no. Let him answer the question in the chat. Go ahead, Jabari. You can finish.
Yeah, I think that that's a little bit strange. So that's how it is. So let's continue. Let's continue. Right. What I want to do is I want to talk to you, and let me say before I even continue, these are good conversations. I want you to have access to us so we can talk about these things, and come to a better understanding of them, right? I'm going to say to you that while I think that it's not unfair to critique these organizations for using Greek letter, I think that's a fair critique, right? I want you to understand that the person that you're insulting is someone who has spent his entire adult life, in fact, probably even a little bit more than my adult life, doing everything I can to promulgate African history, to reconnect Africans on the continent, to do all of those things. And if that's the one thing you can critique me on, then that's fine. I'm okay with that because I'm someone who has spent there isn't a day of my life that I don't spend trying to make the ancestors proud. And I think that if you're familiar with me, while you might disagree with me on this point, you'd probably agree with me on that. So let's move. Let's talk about how Kemet becomes Kemet, right? Let's begin with this. I want us, before we even talk a bit about Narmer, I want to put it in perspective by showing you this item. And I am not going to tell people what its name is. I'm going to ask if the folks that are looking can tell me what it's called. Let's see what it's called. Does anyone know what this item is called? And for extra credit, tell me where it is. That's the extra credit. Tell me where it is. Now, one of the reasons why I think we ought to know what this is because it is one of the artifacts that helps us understand, truly helps us understand, how Kemet comes from the interior of Africa. I see one person, Wusir Heru Ma'at, actually answering the question. I see someone else that says it's the Nubian incense. I think you mean the Nubian incense burner. I want to see what else, if there are other answers. Sister Sinette Sandra says the coastal incense burner. She trying. Is there anyone else? Just 2 answers? 3 answers? Come on now.
Come on, you guys.
Are you not answering because you think the answer has already been given? Or are you not answering because you don't know what it is? Sandra says, I can't spell. Listen, I'm going to tell you, if there wasn't spell check, I never would have gone to college. Because they would have looked at my application and said, oh, no. Send this person back to 3rd grade. So I'm not known for spelling either. So
They didn't have spell check back then. They did have spell check.
They did. It was a little bit harder to use than it is now. Yes. Okay. And yes, did you just call me old? I think you just called me old.
I mean, I'm just saying. You used the reference I didn't know earlier. So I'm saying.
So let me say that several of you do have the answer correct. And I know that Sinette Sandra actually also tried to sound it out because she might not have known the spelling, but this is known as the coastal incense burner. The coastal incense burner. And I want you to know that Sinette Sakina Ra is probably the only one that said where it was. Remember I said that you needed extra credit? She's the only person that gets extra credit. This is at the Oriental Institute in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it important? Why am I showing this? Here goes the actual included description of the Cousteau incense burner that is at the Chicago Oriental Institute. I want you to look at this. And one of the things that we begin to understand